what happened whenever your children didn't respond to the boundaries, didn't respond to the discipline. How did you respond then?
I feel like we responded reasonably. These are going to be great questions for my kids when they're on the show.
So good.
Natasha, tell us. You freaked out. Life is like a roller coaster, but it's better when we go through it together. Welcome to the Candace Cameron Bure Podcast. We're here to share conversations about life's challenges, celebrations, and everything in between. Our guest hosts this season are Dr. Josh and Christi Straub. Come on and join us. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Another exciting episode.
Yeah.
This is fun.
I feel like a lot of parents have been waiting for this topic because it can feel the most tedious at times and the most effective thing, the thing that we need to do. Sometimes we hate to do, sometimes we really want to do.
Yep.
We're talking about setting boundaries with your kids.
Yep.
But before we get into this, which could be kind of heavy, I don't know. Maybe it won't be. Maybe it'll be really funny.
Uh-oh.
I just want our listeners to get to know you guys a little bit better.
Okay.
And I feel like you have shared so much. It's been incredible. But I want them to see the fun side of you guys too. So
We do a fun side.
I'm just going to have some fun questions for you. Like,
Okay.
Here's the question.
Okay.
Do either of you have any hidden talents?
Hidden talents. Do you? You used to.
Oh, great. What is it? What is it?
Because I played volleyball.
Because you played volleyball.
I played volleyball in college. So that was I don't know if that's a
I just
hidden
have never
talent.
seen you play volleyball.
So it's been hidden from you. And the kids.
Oh, I
Hidden from
see.
me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hidden
Is that-
from you.
That's what I
It
was
feels
thinking
like a
of.
former life, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
Yours?
Hidden talents would be for me, I do enjoy playing drums.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
played drums when I was a kid and I
Yeah.
can do that, but I don't do it formally, or I wouldn't say that I was good enough to do it
You know
formally.
what? I'm going to say you're pretty good on a Blackstone.
On a what?
A Blackstone. Do you know what a
Blackstone
Blackstone?
No.
grill.
It's like those
Oh.
grills. It's almost
basically
like
a cast iron
Oh,
grill.
a hibachi grill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's gotten
Yeah.
quite
Ooh,
good.
that's really
I do
good.
enjoy
Yeah.
cooking. I enjoy
That's good.
That's
You and
new.
Val can talk about
That's
cooking
new.
a lot.
I do
Val is
enjoy
incredible. That's
sous vide,
good.
things like that.
What's
Yeah.
the weirdest thing you've ever eaten?
I'm going to actually say this is funny because growing up, I wouldn't have thought that this was weird, but looking back on it and knowing how I eat today, I'm like, that's really weird. Is Scrapple. You ever heard of Scrapple?
I don't know what
So
Scrapple
Scrapple
is.
is
Is this a
when
Southern
you-
thing?
No,
This is a
I grew up in
Pennsylvania thing.
Pennsylvania. But when you butcher a pig, okay, it's like you do the bacon and you do the ham and you do all of that. But the Scrapple is like what they make with all the other rest of the stuff.
Okay.
They combine it all and they put it in this slab of maybe meat. I don't know.
Sort of like bologna. I feel like
Kinda
that's
like
what bologna is.
yeah.
But it's not,
They
you
call
don't put it in
Scrapple.
casing like a sausage. Is it just like
No.
a
It-
well, kind of is,
scramble
though.
It's almost
meat?
like it's
It
almost like
is in
little
a sausage,
patty.
and then they like cut it.
Okay.
No,
like
it's like a little patty. A Scrapple is like a little
So
patty.
is it Spam?
It's like a patty of like it's
in a
looking
can.
back
No, it's
on
not.
it was like a thing that we all ate, and I was like, that I don't know that was good.
I've never had that. I've never even heard of that.
And people eat it a lot.
Oh,
They
yeah.
talk about
No,
it.
it's weird.
Whenever we're back there.
It's a weird thing. It's weird.
I like what comes to me, and this is probably going to sound really Canadian. It's maybe even not that weird, but we would take like maple syrup.
Maple
Put
syrup.
maple
There you go.
syrup on
Here we go.
everything.
They're stereotypical.
This is so Canadian. We'd take maple syrup
How very elf of you.
and we put it in snow. So it
Oh.
freezes. So it makes like a maple. It's almost like a candy, but it's like a frozen candy.
Yummy.
But I realized how stereotypically Canadian that sounds.
No,
so,
but the fact that I've never heard that and
never heard
have
that
spent
either.
half my life in Canada
Yeah.
and film all of my
my
movies
gosh.
there,
Put it
I'm
in a
gonna
new
do
movie.
that the next time. I need to call you for more tips.
Totally.
Try to be,
you
My
need
Christmas
some
movie
Christmas
tips.
movie tips.
my
I'm your
word.
girl. You should try that in a movie. They like do it like on their little date. But it's so,
That's so cute.
but it's really good because it makes it like a toffee candy type thing.
That sounds delicious.
Anyway,
buddy.
Do you guys have any favorite family spots in Nashville?
I would say yes, and I would say this would be because of our children. Is sound waves. Sound Waves is the water park that is built into the Gaylord Opryland Hotel.
Oh.
And they have an indoor and outdoor component to it. And so we do a little staycation. We go and we stay a night at the Opryland, and then we just crush for 2 days the water park there. It is actually really cool.
But bring earplugs.
Yeah, because it's in the inside part, it's loud.
It's called Sound Waves for a reason.
Okay.
So there's like music in like every part. It's a lot.
But it's a lot of fun.
It is fun.
I really enjoy it.
It is really fun.
Kids love it.
And we live like outside of Nashville. So like anything I would say that we actually enjoy is probably like further out.
Hiking, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like we really love it. I think what I would say is, even like Arrington Vineyards is super fun to like bring. I don't know if you've ever been there.
No.
Arrington is like, you can bring a picnic. It's like in a vineyard. You can just sit. they have like outdoor music and
that sounds
food trucks
great.
and it's so fun.
I do love live music. I love songwriters nights in Nashville where you sit, you go to a place and you hear the songwriter, you hear these popular songs being played, but you're hearing them being played by the person who wrote the song, not maybe the artist that you've known the song for.
And sometimes they're better.
You get a backstory behind it and where the song came from. Those are beautiful.
So guys, I was going to say, which is really selfish of me. I was going to be like, great. So the next time I come and visit Nashville, you know where to take me.
Yes.
Right.
And then I just realized, how about I say, why don't I watch the kids and you guys could go out and have a date night? See, that would be the new Candace, becoming the parent and person I want to be.
The grandparent in training.
Yes.
Like, let me take the kids. So,
yes. Okay, my final question. Well, it's actually getting into today's topic, but we're going to be talking about discipline and boundaries with our kids. So do you guys have a story that you're willing to share that your kids wouldn't mind you sharing where maybe they got in trouble?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. This has become a family, like some of these have become family lore, like where it's like told and retold so many times.
Does it get better each time?
It totally does.
And it's so similar to you with Natasha.
Yes.
With her lying. And we talked about that a few weeks back. But what I love about it is I love when parents are freaked out, like, I just caught my son or daughter lying. And you're like, awesome. Like this is every child, your child is going to lie.
They're normal.
They are normal. And this is our story.
You're raising a human. Good.
That's right.
Good. Yeah. Kennedy, it was Kennedy and she was, I think 3. We were at the cottage and my whole family was there. So we would go on this big, like a summer vacation. We try to, because we don't all live in the same place. And so we get together. And so it's the cousins and we're having this bonfire down at the water and the kids, they're making s'mores. We have those like glow stick, like party glow stick, they've got the bracelets and the wands and the thing. And so we're going to have a glow stick dance party. But they started with s'mores and Josh had given Kennedy a s'more, which I had seen, like I knew that it had happened. And then she came to me and she was like, Mommy, can I have a s'more? And I said, well, honey, did you have one? No. Like it's the same, like, is this every child's like rite of passage?
Totally.
I was like, honey, well, I think daddy gave you one. Nope. Okay, well, I'm going to go talk to daddy. And if he tells me that, he gave you a s'more already, then I know that you're not telling me the truth and there will be a consequence. Okay. And it was like this, I'm like, where did you come from, little miss? And we went into a standoff about this darn s'more for, I think it was literally hours. Like,
oh my goodness.
To the point where I was like, you do not get to attend the glow stick party, the dance party. I had to take her back up to the cottage, which I was so mad about because I didn't want to be in the cottage. I wanted to be down at the glow stick dance party. And I had to go up and sit with her in the cottage until she confessed, which...
Did she eventually?
She did. But it was probably 2-3 hours later.
Literally.
It was a standoff.
Wow.
It was.
And I remember that's how I felt.
I remember Christy coming out to me and saying, I cannot let her win this.
Yeah.
It's like,
it was one of those, like, it was. That's why when you told that story, I was like, oh my word, I relate so well. Because it was like, I do realize there's a lot of hills that are not worth dying on. This was one. It was like the first time where she dug her heels in and it was a battle of wills, but not just about something arbitrary. It's like, we do not lie. And I don't know to this day if she has lied since. It was like so ingrained in her after that standoff. She's not one to be deceitful, but it was like something did break that day. But oh my word, but it cost us too.
It did.
Right.
Like I wanted to give in because I didn't want to have to do this.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it's become family lore, because now they have a little brother and they're like, oh, Micah, do not lie to mom and dad. Like, I got to tell you the story of the glow stick party.
I never got the confession from Natasha. Ever. Never got it.
Wow.
But I think that's where I went wrong because it didn't set the precedence.
That's like, this is so wild. And I'm going to make this analogy anyway. We have a dog, and training a dog, you always want to make sure that you're the last one to look away. Like when you're training a dog and a dog is in trouble, it's like, if we're going to maintain eye contact and that dog is staring at me, submission is when that dog looks away first. And you got to make sure you maintain eye contact. And I think it's a similar principle with our kids of we need to make sure we stand our ground rather than just giving in. Because when we give in, our children learn that, oh, well, I can get over on mom and dad. I can get over. Right. Because that's what we end up doing. And I think when it comes to setting boundaries, especially with rules in the home, we need to be clear, we need to be consistent, and we need to follow through. And I think those are three mistakes we tend to make when we're disciplining kids is, number one, we're not clear on the rules. So in other words, it might be that, okay, the house is clean. You got to take off your shoes before you come into the house. Well, 3 days later, the house is dirty again. And we're like, whatever, just you can wear your shoes. But then house gets clean again. And it's like, oh, I told you you got to take off your shoes. But we're not being clear. Either we're taking off our shoes or we're not. Like, it's like we have to be clear on the rules. And then we have to be consistent in implementing those rules. And I think sometimes where we make mistakes is we have too many rules that our kids are trying to follow and they don't know, or we're not consistent enough. And then always following through with discipline as it relates to what's the consequence if we're not following those rules. And I think those is trying to simplify it as much as we can. That's the area that we really want to pay attention to. And I also say this, we've spoken so much in this season about becoming, and that our children become who we are. And I love thinking about Mr. Rogers' definition of discipline. He said, I think of discipline as the continual everyday process of learning self-discipline. And I think that's so beautiful for each of us, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get our children to learn self-discipline, but it's a continual everyday process that we're all trying to learn. And so therefore we have to be disciplined as parents as well. We have to know that with my teenagers, if I'm going to set a rule about social media and my phone and screen time, I best be doing a similar thing and modeling it for my kids, as opposed to, do as I say, not as I do. More is caught than taught. And so we want to pay attention to that and prioritize that. Candace, I'd be interested for you. Was it hard setting boundaries with your kids?
I don't know if this is surprising, but no, it wasn't hard for me to set boundaries, or for Val. I'm also married to one of the most disciplined people I have ever known in my entire life. His consistency and willingness to be a disciplined person is exceeding. It is.
You don't become a professional athlete without having that.
Exactly. So it wasn't hard for me, because also in the same way, again, going to go back to being a kid actor, those were things I had to be as a child. So that set an expectation for what I thought my children should be able to do. So to set those boundaries. So
I guess the question would then be that you guys were disciplined, but what happened whenever your children didn't respond to the boundaries, didn't respond to the discipline? How did you respond then? What was that like for you guys? The
behavior. I feel like we responded reasonably. These are going to be great questions for my kids when they're on the show.
So good. Yeah.
Natasha, you didn't, Mom. You freaked out. You freaked out. I'm sure I did freak out some days, but I feel like for the most part, it's disappointing as a parent. You're thinking of, okay, what do I have to do? What type of consequence do I want to give them? And what is the type of consequence that fits the bill or fits the crime? Like, I don't want to have like a random consequence that really has nothing to do with what they've done. So for instance, if one of my kids went out and like met their friends after I told them you're not allowed to go out, you need to stay home and do your homework, then the consequence has to fit that. It has to be like, well, then you're grounded from seeing your friends for another day or two, or, well, I'm going to take your phone because if you were texting them when you weren't supposed to, the phone goes away. I don't want to randomly just say, well, you can't go to Disneyland 2 weeks from now. That's your consequence, when it really had nothing to do with what they were doing at that specific moment. Those were the types of ways we tried to respond as best as we could.
Well, and I think it's important too to realize, I think it's one of the most worried about aspects of parenting for all of us is, are my kids listening? Are my disciplining? And there was a few episodes back earlier in the season where I talked about this meta-analysis by this guy out of Harvard who talked about the top 10 parenting strategies to get the outcomes we most desire in our kids. It wasn't number 7 on the list was behavior modification or discipline. And so you think about that and you're like, wow, that was the 7th one on the list. So many of the other ones, as we talked about, were who we're becoming as adults. And I think behavior modification or discipline, what we don't want to do, we don't want our 16-year-old driving safely because they know they're going to get a Snickers bar when they get home. Right? There has to be a point at which moral development is like, oh no, I'm going to drive safely because of all the other people out there on the road. It's not because mom and dad are going to give me a Snickers bar. So we've got now that Snickers bar or whatever, the positive reinforcement is important early on, but there comes a point at which we have to explain the why to our kids and it help them experience the natural consequences of when they don't follow the rules or meet the expectations or hit the boundary. And I think those are two, I like to say this, I see in my children, if I can get them to experience as close as possible to the natural consequence, similar to what you're talking about, the natural consequence of what they disobeyed in, where they sinned or however that looked like. And then number 2, if they feel remorse for what they did. To me, I think those are two of the most beautiful outcomes that we want to see when it comes to setting boundaries, because that's where discipline comes into play, right? It's like, that's where if I'm going to, and I love to think about this, you talked about Val. I think of this as if life were a playing field, I am only going to see the field if I'm practicing the fundamentals over and over and over again. I'm not going to see the field if I don't know how to interact with other humans. I'm not going to see the playing field if I'm lying all the time. And I never learned that lying is a problem. I'm never going to see the field if I'm speaking disrespectfully to authority figures and to my parents. Because as soon as they step out into the real world, they're going to learn real quickly, you don't speak disrespectfully to an authority figure, right? It's like, no. So the more that we can get them to experience those natural consequences and experience the real world around them, I think that is where discipline really lived out. As Mr. Rogers said, the continual everyday process of learning self-discipline. What is the environment we're cultivating? I think there's something beautiful about that. And it makes parenting difficult because it makes it subjective and not always as black and white as we want as parents. And there's a great researcher. I need to find her name. She wrote a book and I am going to look it up right now. Her name is Alison Gopnik, and she wrote a book called The Gardener and the Carpenter. And in it, she talks about the 2 different styles of parenting and how we tend to think of parenting and all the parenting books, all these things really came rise in the mid 1900s where it was like, okay, but it came along with the rise of education. Well, and so therefore what we do is we think about parenting as carpentry, right? Well, carpentry is, you have to have the exact measurements in order to get this house so that the house doesn't fall over. What we tend to feel like, okay, I have to get the exact discipline strategy so that my children don't fall over. But the reality is that that's not it's not a comparable analogy, because what we're doing as parents is we're more like gardeners with our children. It's like cultivating a garden. There's soil you have to cultivate. There's seasons that are appropriate for certain edification and discipline, and where we got to water and where do we got to. And so I just think I love that analogy. And I just want to take the pressure off of parents to feel like discipline is the end all be all, and to start maybe having a different metric for how we're raising our children. Boundaries are incredibly important. Don't get me wrong. We need truth. Our children need truth. However, it's not the end all be all, in the sense that, what about joy? What about the environment you're cultivating? True discipline, true obedience, as we've said in the past, is going to flow out of that experience of love in the environment. And so I just think to set that bar, and to maybe just kind of get us off of being so hyper-focused on one aspect of parenting.
As fall rolls in, it's the perfect time to get your family together with easy-to-cook, delicious meals. With Good Ranchers, you can make this fall season a game changer. Now, here's the problem. Too much meat at the grocery store is imported and low quality. So when you get a box of Good Ranchers delivered, you're making a choice that aligns with your family's values. Their beef, chicken, pork, and wild-caught seafood is 100% from local family farms or fishermen with zero antibiotics or added hormones. It is pre-trimmed, they're individually vacuum-packed, and honestly, much better than what you're going to get at the store. So subscribe to any Good Ranchers box now and get a free add-on for 1 whole year. That's a full year of plain chicken breast, Angus ground beef, Applewood bacon, or wild-caught salmon with every single order. With my code, you'll get $25 off your first box and free express shipping. That's up to $360 in savings. Go to goodranchers.com and use my code CANDY at checkout. And if you need to pause or cancel, there aren't a lot of hoops to jump through, I promise. Good Ranchers makes it really easy because they're confident you'll love every bite. Use my code CANDY today and make this fall truly memorable with Good Ranchers. GoodRanchers.com, American meat delivered.
Well, and I think like what you're saying, like boundaries keep everyone safe, right? But like for all of us, that's what it's the guidelines, the guardrails that keep all of us. It tells what's in, what's out, what's, allowed and what's not. And I think for all of us, that makes us feel safe. But when we're so focused on the rails, like we're pushing to the outer extremes. And I think one shift that I've really noticed for us as the kids have gotten older has not been as much, the discipline. Yes, we have boundaries, we have rules. And I will say, I thought of this earlier, like we've you can't hit all the marks at the same time, so I found we had to work on one thing at a time. So it was like all on deck for, no complaining, or all on deck for we sit at the table, when they're really little. And it's like, that's the rule. We're not adding in all these other rules. It's like, this is the one we're focusing on right now, because otherwise you're going to exhaust yourself and exasperate the kids. It's like nobody's doing anything right. But I think as we've shifted, we've moved toward high responsibility, high expectation, and high reward. So away from negative behavior and, negative consequence, and positive behavior, positive reward or consequence, in that we know who you are. We know who God has made you to be. Mm-hmm. We're getting to know even more who that is. But because he's made you in his image, I have high expectations for you. And I don't mean, I actually don't really care how you do in school. I actually don't really care how you
performance expectations.
Yeah. But character, how you are as a human, how you contribute to our family. We have high expectations, high responsibility. And then there's high reward that comes with that. And we've noticed, because we had 2 very strong-willed children, and the battle of wills it got exhausting. And we realized the shift toward what I see in you and what I believe you to be is so different than like, and you didn't do this again, and you messed up on this again. And so I just think that shift, I don't know, it brought life to me for sure as a mom, where I needed some wind in my sails, and I noticed it did it for them too. And so they do have a lot of responsibility, and now they're home because we homeschool. So like they have jobs like all through the day, and they take care of a lot of responsibility. And now Landon's broken his arm, and I'm noticing I'm like, man, there's a lot of things you did that
That's true.
Now I have to do because but I'm like, wow, what a contributor you are to our family.
And there's this phrase that we use. It comes out of a book called The Culture Code, which is a business book, but it talks about the safety in business culture. And it's an 18-word phrase that is just so powerful for kids. And it's the balance of safety, but also calling them higher. And it's this phrase: I'm giving you this feedback because I have very high expectations of you, and I know you can meet them. And that's what Christi's talking about. I'm giving you this feedback because I have very high expectations of you, and I know you've got what it takes. I know you can meet them. And it just calls our kids higher. And so, I would love to know for you what boundaries you had as growing up in your home. What boundaries you had.
I feel like it was all of like the typical boundaries, like normal. It really was.
Listen, obey.
Listen, obey. Ask permission first before you do it. Come home when the streetlights turn on. You can't go anywhere without a parent present unless it's okayed by us beforehand. Call if you're going to be late. I mean, those seem to be so basic, and yet I feel like sometimes they're missed in our culture today by kids.
Would similar to we were talking about earlier, clear. Were the expectations clear?
Very clear.
Yeah.
Because I can rattle those off, and I know
you can tell.
I did not miss that.
Yeah.
But there was always what I appreciated about those expectations, which I carried on to my children, was that there was always grace with it. Here's the boundary. However, if there's an exception, if that's not working in your favor, like if you're going to be late for something, your curfew's 10.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be late or you ran into something, call. Just call. Pull over and call, or go to your friend's house, stop and call and let me know you're going to be home. Then there's grace. So if I say, here's what's happened, I'm not going to be home till 10:30, and it's a reasonable explanation, then there's grace. And I really appreciated the explanation of that and knowing that there was a cushion, but not a cushion I wanted to abuse in any way.
Yeah. I think I think even for all of us to go back to our own childhood and to remember ourselves as children and what felt safe.
Right.
Were there any of you or your siblings who pushed boundaries in particular in your home? And how was that?
Oh, I don't remember any specific examples. I feel like I was a goody two-shoes. I'd have to ask my parents. I certainly wasn't a perfect child, but I pretty much obeyed the rules. One of my sisters pushed the boundaries a lot. And I think that was probably hard for my parents. But
yeah. What about sibling rivalry? How did you handle it as a mom, or how did you experience it maybe as a child? Because I think sibling rivalry is one of those where do your kids have boundaries?
So I didn't really experience sibling rivalry. I was very close buddies with my sister Melissa, and then loved my sister Bridget. She was just kind of older, and then my brother's 6 years older, so I didn't have any sibling rivalry with them. And Melissa was like my best friend. She would just help me along the way. And then with my own kids, I would have to ask them, honestly. From the outside, I don't feel like the sibling rivalry was great. However, maybe my boys had a little playing in hockey, at the same time, maybe being compared to one another. Some things like that. But my kids are all pretty close. They've been pretty close buddies.
Yeah. We hear that a lot. How do we deal with sibling rivalry? How do we deal with the nitpicking back and forth and and the going back and forth. And I think, for me, the boundary is we've gotten to a place where they're pretty good. They're in a season right now where they're doing that a little bit more. But we had a moment a couple weeks ago where they were at each other, and they know my consequence for that is I'm going to give them a task that they have to accomplish together. And if they don't, and they have to work together as a team to accomplish it. And I remember they were at each other, and I said, guys, I don't know what this is about, but you're old enough to handle it yourself, and I'm going to let you handle it yourself. And if this keeps happening and it's influencing the atmosphere of the rest of all of our home and influencing everybody else, you guys are going to have to clean out. We have this cabin on our property. And I just said, and it was a Friday. And so we practiced Sabbath on Saturday, and it's just something we can get into in another episode, but it's something that we do because we believe in rest. And they love Saturdays. They just know it's their day that they're going to play and all that. And so but I told them, I said, you guys are going to have to wake up tomorrow morning. You're going to have to clean the cabin if you do this again. Well, we're in a piece of joint, and we're in line in public, and they are just at each other, and they're loud. And I stopped them and I said, do you hear yourselves right now? I said, you know what that means, don't you? And they just were like, their faces you could just see it come over their face. And I made them clean the cabin the next morning. And I was there, I was alongside them, it wasn't like I'm like, hey, but I'm watching them, I'm helping them. Yeah. But they were bummed that they had to spend the first couple hours cleaning that morning, and it remedied it for a little while, and so it continues to, I think that building, again, setting discipline where we're paying attention to how we're treating one another.
I will say that reminds me of a story when my boys were older, and I don't know if it was rivalry or they just got into an argument.
Yeah.
But they were, I want to say it was like 13 and 15 or 14 and 16, something. They were grown, like teenage boys, not quite full size, but almost. And they got into a fight. And the first punch was thrown.
Oh, wow.
And they were in our bedroom, and it was in the hallway. So it was a more narrow space. And of course, I went to just jump in and pull it apart. And Val grabbed me, pulled me back, and he goes, let him go at it.
Wow.
And it was like awful. It was awful as a mom. My heart was breaking because he just said, Val, in the midst of it, was like, they're gonna figure it out right now. Yeah. They're gonna figure it out between the two of them, and then one of them's gonna stop. But we let him just go at it. And it was heartbreaking, but eventually they stopped. And I don't know, maybe Val ended up breaking it up. I can't even remember. It was like, it just felt so awful. I'm watching my boys like slug each other. Hard. And it was bad, but that was the only time I remember them physically fighting, that we were there and allowed them to. But I'll tell you, it stopped the problem for a long time. Yeah. The other, whoever was the instigator, wasn't instigating anymore.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, wow.
They kind of had to set the, it was, big brother, little brother, but it's like, now we got to set who's listening and respecting.
Yeah.
Home.
Wow. And to do it, go ahead.
No, but and to let them do that. Like, I just respect Val so much for doing that.
Never let them happen. But I
feel like any mom would be like,
for my husband, that he's like, no. I have a brother.
I know
player. How this
he knows how men work.
Yes.
He knows.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Yeah.
Wow.
By the way, I'm not advocating for your children to duke it out and fist fight. I'm just sharing a story that happened to us in our home.
Safety. Yeah.
So what about Natasha? Because I feel like that's girls, especially teenage, older girls, it's a different ball game.
Totally different ball game. And Natasha gave us the most trouble growing up. Again, we're going to sit and we're going to talk about it. Yeah. But we can laugh about it now, and which is such a blessing and a beautiful place to be in. And so I'm encouraging all of you that feel like you're in the thick of it. They will come through it. I promise they'll come through it. Yeah. But it did look really different with Natasha. And there was a book that I read when she was older, my kids were older, I wished that I had had this resource younger. And it's a book by Lisa D'Amour. It's called Untangled, Guiding Teenage Girls Through the 7 Transitions into Adulthood. And what I found most interesting in that book was that she helped me see that it wasn't a personal attack on me, that her disobedience wasn't about her like outright disobeying us, but it was kind of figuring out her own boundaries, even though we establish them as children get older. And then in the teenage years, they're in their nature, they're going to test boundaries. But what they do is test them at home first before they're testing them out with other people that they don't know. And I was like, oh, that makes so much sense because there's a safety within your home. So if they can push mom and dad a little, they can see how far they can go. And then when they go out into the real world, it establishes the bigger boundary of like, oh, I really shouldn't do that. Or maybe I can push a little bit here. So it was, anyway, I really enjoyed that book. Again, I wish that I had had it.
It's good. Yeah.
For our almost teenage daughter.
Had it earlier.
But I think what again, what she's alluding to is going back to that posture of emotional safety and you guys going, okay, this is not personal.
Wow.
So therefore I can be, when my kids get big, I can come small and enter into their world as opposed to us getting big too and matching their bigness and then it just blowing up. And I think that's really important for each of us as parents to realize, oh, wow, I don't need to take this personally. This is them trying to figure out their world and I need to come alongside that.
And it's really hard not to in the moment take it personally. Val was really great at reminding me that all the time. It's not personal. It's not personal.
And you're going to take it personal. And I want to just remind people to go back to the previous episodes where we talked about just 2 out of 5 times, you can still get the outcomes you desire in your kids because you're going to mess up. And when you do mess up, just seek forgiveness. Just ask for forgiveness from your kids. Apologize.
Well, let's go to our listener question today. It's from Katie. And she writes in, my husband and I don't always see eye to eye about bad language around the kids. I didn't grow up with bad language spoken in the home. It was disrespectful. So when he uses that kind of language in our home, not towards me or the kids, I feel disrespected and it hurts. I'm not sure how I should handle this. How do we tackle this one? Because again, this is it's talking about a specific problem, and yet the overarching theme is really about feeling disrespected.
Yeah, it's really a marriage issue more than anything. We talk about this often, is that the issue we're arguing about is never the issue.
Right.
It's always something underlying that. And in this case, clearly she feels disrespected and hurt. And her ability, Katie, your ability to be able to share that you feel disrespected. And I don't know if this is something that you have done, but when you start to go tit for tat around bad language, what ends up happening is he probably feels shamed or ridiculed. And obviously that's just going to bring up his defense. So his fight or flight is going off and it sounds like he's probably fighting. Well, it doesn't matter if I use bad language around the kids. Why do you care? Are you trying to tell me what to do? And then that's how we get very defensive, as opposed to coming in with a posture of going, can I talk to you about something? And, I want our kids, casting vision for how I always think starting with the end in mind and working backwards is really, really important to say, hey, this is the vision we have for our kids. We want our kids to be respectful. We want them to turn out this way. And I know we have differing views on that. But what I would love to be able to do is come back and let's talk about how we can enter in together as a team to raise our kids. I think in this case, she just said kids, so it's not just girls. But and basically going, I, in a lot of ways, and being able to voice, I feel disrespected when this happens, but using team language. So what we have to be able to do with our spouses is use us. Dr. Carol Rusbelt found that an us against the world attitude leads to high marital satisfaction. So in other words, if you're going to say, I feel disrespected, we have to be able to couch that in the sense of, we're a team. I love you. I'm not I'm not blaming you. I'm not putting this all on you. What I'm saying is, and it may be even starting by taking ownership of maybe an area that you are breaking down. You know, I'm sorry that I have belittled you. I'm sorry that maybe if I have spoken condescendingly to you about this, genuinely, it's not even the bad language that concerns me. I want our girls, I want our kids to be X, Y, and Z. And in mine, how can we come together as a team and do that together where I support you, where you feel respected as a father and a husband? How can I do that better? And her taking ownership of that, because what that does is that invites him in without putting him on the defensive.
Yeah. That's really good. I would start praying for the heart of my husband, because what I feel like maybe he doesn't see that as offensive, and yet we can look to scripture and know that, you know, the Bible says, like, don't let foul language come out of your mouth. And, you know, what comes out of the mouth is in the heart. And so I would start praying for my husband's heart, that he would have a heart to, in obedience to God, not want to use that type of language. Because it actually might really not mean anything to him. It might not even feel bad. It's like, hey, this is how I grew up. And they're just words. And I know a lot of people who feel like that. So I would also pray, like, God, could you help him see that these words aren't honoring, and therefore also not honoring around our kids to grow up and hear those just be words, because words do matter. They are important to you. You teach on words. And I would pray for that. And I would also, in that conversation that you would invite them to have together as teammates, also show an example. I mean, it might push his buttons. I don't know where he is in a biblical sense, but show him the scriptures. So you have something that backs it up, that's saying, it's not just because my parents didn't use bad language. It's not just because I want this. It's about honoring God, and I want to teach our children godly principles. And here's where it says in the Bible.
Speaking in truth. And I think too, you know,
so good.
And it's hard to navigate that, because you have to pray into, and I love that you said that, you have to pray into, where is our spouse in this? Will my spouse receive this? And I think of Romans 14, you know, where, you know, it really what that's talking about is your convictions being your convictions, and not judging your brother based on their convictions and where they're at. And I think we also have to pay attention to, the Lord might have me in a different place. And so therefore, the only way I can get him to that place is by the Holy Spirit convicting him. And that has to happen through prayer. And so I think that's a big, big component of it.
So good.
Well, that's it, guys. That's it for today's episode. But we're going to be back. And when we're back next week, we're going to have a special guest.
Yay!
So make sure you guys tune in for that.
Be fun.
I wanted to ask you, are you on our email list? Because every week we send out show notes, ideas. We even answer listener questions on the emails too. So you don't want to miss it. We might be answering yours. We also have a free download for you this season. We're calling it the Healthy Home Guide, and it comes from Josh and Christi's book, Famous at Home. Just go to Candace.com to get it, and you'll also find a link to their book in the show notes, which is what our whole season is based on. Until next time, be grateful all day, every day. If you value local, trustworthy, and high-quality food, now is the perfect time to join the Good Ranchers family. I was thrilled when my first Good Ranchers box showed up and it was all still perfectly frozen. And what I really love about Good Ranchers is their commitment to transparency. They believe you have the right to know exactly what's in your food. I mean, hello. And they're also amazing supporters of this show. Good Ranchers sources all of their meat from local U.S. farms, so you're getting the best of the best. No antibiotics, no added hormones, just pure, delicious meat you can trust. And do you ever notice when you're in the store, when you buy chicken or beef, it costs more and the portions way less every time you buy it? But imagine having top quality, 100% American beef, chicken, pork, and wild-caught seafood delivered right to your door. Just head over to GoodRanchers.com and subscribe to any box to unlock savings. Good Ranchers is where you can get 100% USA grown meat you can trust that's tender and full of flavor every single time. With meat prices continuing to go up and the quality at the store going down, Good Ranchers can save you hundreds. Your taste buds, your wallet, and local ranchers will thank you. GoodRanchers.com, American meat delivered. Hey, thanks for watching, friends. If you haven't done yet, make sure to subscribe. CandyRock Entertainment, all rights reserved.